when it comes to assessing grapevine trunk disease, particular Eutypa dieback, there's two ways that we approach this, and it really depends on the outcome of what the information is that you want to get. So firstly, when we consider incidence of infection, we're just talking about when we look at a vine, is there any sign of dieback or foliar symptom or not? It's as simple as plus or negative for each vine. We can then go through a vineyard at quite a pace, and we can cover, let's say, 200 vines within about 5 minutes. And when we finish those 200 vines, we can have a percentage of vines which are infected, and a percentage that have dieback, and a percentage of vines that have foliar symptoms. With that information, we can compile the information from many blocks in one vineyard and then across a whole region, and very quickly get a picture of the situation across a whole region in terms of trunk disease. It allows us to compare varieties, it allows us to compare ages, and it also allows us to compare different management strategies that are in place. So incidence of infection is really important on a larger scale. The second way of assessing vines is to look at the severity of disease on each vine. Now, the importance of looking at the severity really gives you an indication of how much disease or how far the disease has progressed in an individual vine. So by doing that, we're able to compare between blocks within the same vineyard and decide which vines, which blocks need to be managed first in terms of maybe remedial work or removal and replanting, but gives us a tool to manage the disease. Okay, so the importance of, identifying the foliar symptoms in the foliage is really to try and get in and do these assessments before the shoots get more than sort of 70 or 80 centimetres long. Because as you can see on this vine here, you probably can't really see the foliar symptoms, but if you look really closely, you actually have some shoots here which have foliar symptoms. The typical necrosis around the edges of cup leaves, short and stunted internodes. Now this takes a little more effort to find these symptoms as the vine the healthy shoots start to grow over the rest of the canopy. And if we look in here again, we see some more fairly hidden shoots. So when the symptoms are not really obvious and we don't have dieback, we only got the foliar symptoms, it's really difficult to find them if you leave it too much longer than foliage that's of this length. When we want to assess the severity of Eutypa dieback on a vine, there's a fairly, simplistic way we can do that. So if we take this vine as an example, you can see that the left side of this vine is pretty much healthy. There's no dead spurs, there's no sign of foliar symptoms. We have pretty much a healthy arm. So 50% of this vine is healthy, so we don't attribute any percentage. However, on this arm of the vine, you can see two things happening. We've got dead spur positions, so we've got missing canopy here in the middle, and we also have foliar symptoms. So we have the typical stunted shoots with the cup leaves and the necrotic margins. So when we look at this as a percentage, this is 50% of the vine. We can see that about 20% of the vine here has no growth. So we have dead arm for 20% of the vine. For the most part, the rest of the arm has viable spurs. However, some of those spurs are infected. So we need to account for some of these foliar symptoms as well. So in this particular instance, we've got 20% dead, and we'll account another 5%, which will account for the light smothering of symptoms that we're seeing in this bit of the foliage. So the overall rating for this vine is 25%.